Engaging citizens.
A game changer for development?
Call to Action with John Gaventa.
So over the last few weeks, those of you who have been taking this MOOC course on citizen engagement, I'm sure have learned a lot. What do you do with it? How do you begin to implement this? First of all, change doesn't happen overnight. The important thing is to find your own space for engagement, those places that you're comfortable, those places that you can get entry, those places which you think are most important wherever you're working, with whomever you're working, and start from there. There's no fixed recipe in this process. There's nobody from the outside who will say, do it this way. You can learn from other contexts, and I hope you've learned from other contexts in this course, but ultimately every context will be somewhat different. The important thing is to start on what you see as possible and then learn from that action in order to think about the next action. You can't go from 0 to 50 overnight. Start slow, see how far you've gone, reflect on what you've learned, start again. And do it in the way that's most comfortable for you and which fits best in the spaces and opportunities that you have. Now that's the advice for citizens, but for policymakers, I think this is equally important. It's very hard, I think, for policymakers to implement citizen engagement from above. What policymakers can do is provide the spaces into which citizens can step. They can create spaces through inviting people to engage. They can create spaces by maintaining that safe civil society space that I talked about earlier. They can convene groups of unlikely alliances to help them develop alliances. But they can't implement citizen engagement from above, because ultimately citizen engagement has to be led by citizens. Coming back, that's not to say that citizens will do it alone, but it's the combination of citizens coming together and building up from below and building alliances with those empowered and with strategic allies that ultimately will make the difference. I think another important lesson for citizen engagement in today's globalized world is that we have to learn to build links across the levels. These days, change happens at the local level, it happens at the national level, it happens at the global level. There's forms of citizen engagement that happens at every one of those levels. Some civil society groups are most concerned about working to influence the World Bank at a global level. Some focus on working at the national level. Some focus on really strengthening voice at that local level. Ultimately, all of those groups are important. So we have to also, in addition to working at each of our levels, learn how to build links and relationships and trust amongst those people that are working across the levels. Because again, in a global world where local problems are also linked to global issues, it's how we solve the problems together at every level through a linked citizen engagement that will really make a difference.